they would have to abandon their families
Mm.
and travel across the world. Like, okay, I heard in Africa there's some, scholarly folk that
That's
are
a good
masters in
point.
whatever persuasion or whatever. Like, okay, I got to go spend 3 months, getting there, hopefully survive. And
Awesome, awesome. Hey, well, it's great to finally be on with you, Akbar. For those that don't know who Akbar is, he is known for a lot of big moves in the marketing space as far as building your funnels, scaling 7, 8, 9-figure coaching businesses. He's won multiple 2 Comma Club awards, and you see all the awards behind him. If you don't know who he is, his motto is make more to give more. And so I was attracted to you, Akbar, mostly because of that and because you're very generous with your time. I first saw you on your Facebook Lives, and you're doing those every day. And that inspired me because I was like, man, I got to get my game bumped up here. I got to start doing these daily.
yeah.
But thank you. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Excited to jam.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was attracted to initially was your ability to analyze funnels, but also to kind of cut through all the marketing speak and all the stuff that people normally talk about and get down to the root cause of like, what are you offering? Like, what is your real like hook? Like, what are you trying to get? Because I think a lot of marketing is seen as very surface level, like just impossible claims that nobody can back up. And so a lot of people just get written off. It's like, oh, scale to 50 million, whatever, like, great. That's not me. I'll never, do that. So talk a little bit about that. Like, how were you able to kind of rise above that and really differentiate yourself?
Yeah, man. I think everybody has to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because like, if you go in the marketplace right now, I mean, if you're in business and you're listening right now, you're selling you're selling one of the 3 things: health, wealth, relationships. Whatever you sell is under one of these 3 things. You might be like, well, dude, I'm selling. Well, no, I'm selling a nail cutter. What are you talking about? Well, it falls under health, doesn't it? So I mean, no matter what you do, it's going to fall under these 3 things one way or another. But here's the good news, right? I mean, let's try to keep things positive. The good news is that like your competition's not very good. They're basically a little stinky stew in the sense that everybody's messaging. It's kind of like a couple of people have like really bad messaging, and then like the rest of everybody else followed, just copied them. So it's kind of like good news for you, right? Where it's like, just say for example, someone's out there, they're trying to help people lose weight or whatever, right? Be like, hey, I help you lose weight. Well, okay. I mean that. Though that you see, like everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. So like when those words hit me, that energy, it's like water off a duck's back. It's just like the words never even hit me. They come here, whoop, gone. Never gave it no thought, no mind. It's not even here. Like next, you need messaging that goes and smacks you right in the face, like the energy smacking you right in the face. So watch this. Even if I want to lose weight, which I guess I do, I always want to lose something, but, and I hear the message, hey, we're going to help you lose weight. Okay. You and 8 million other people next. But if you say something like, hey, I'm going to help you lose some weight so you finally have enough energy to play with your kids and be a good dad. You just smacked me in the face with a cold, wet fish. Like, now that energy is like in me now, and it's moving around me, and it's like, dude, like, yeah, I am not a good dad. Like, I am not playing with my kid because I'm too fat to play with my kids. Like, I just don't have the energy to do it, and I want to be a good dad. Okay, let me talk to this person, like, and it's really kind of just that simple, frankly speaking. You just need piercing messaging. And the good news is that your competition doesn't really have it.
And have you found that just making that kind of a level tweak to all the marketing that you're doing really moves the needle more than just, the color of the button or like, how
I
many.
don't know about any of that stuff, nor have I ever. I've never been a big split tester. I don't care what color any of the buttons are. I don't think any of that truly. I think everyone needs to get all that out of your head. That only matters. Let me be clear. Like if you're doing, let's just say, like I don't know, if you're spending like $10,000+ a day on marketing ad spend, and then you start doing micro split tests. Well, let me change this button color to this, and let me see. And that, well, that 1% or whatever will make a difference to you. But unless you're spending $10,000 a day on marketing, get all that crap out of your head. I don't even think about it. I don't study it. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
It's funny, man. I've handed out over 50 trophies to my clients, people whom we've helped. We just ordered another one today. My clients whom we've helped hit 6 figures, 7 figures, or 8 figures. And if you interview all these guys, you'll find that oftentimes it's just like that one thing, that one tweak that they made. Really, it's like, oh man, one guy. I teach people actually how to set their desk up for ultimate productivity. One guy recently was like, hey dude, I didn't watch any of your stuff. I actually just watched that one in your thing. And dude, that like my whole life changed from that. And I made 6 figures from that. And just from rearranging his desk. Other people mindset tweaks, other people traffic tweaks, other people funnel tweaks, other people messaging tweaks. Oftentimes, and I think that's so cool. It's just like, yeah, man, that like, and I think we can all think about that in our lives too. Is like what's that one thing that's happened in your life that like really kind of changed things? And I think we can all pinpoint that. So I think that's a very positive message, because it's not like you have to master this and this and this and this. Oftentimes, it's just like that one. It's like one thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And what was that thing for you? What was that moment? Because I know your story, your origin story is very amazing.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny you say that, because it's funny you asked me that, because that's literally what I was thinking about as I was answering this question. The one moment that changed my whole life was I got my online start in like network marketing, and I had so many failures before that, like so many failures. I actually had to sell my car for $2,000 to get into this network marketing opportunity, and I was failing, just like I failed at so many other businesses, and I was about to give up again on the network marketing business. But then, like, I look around the room and I'm like, dude, like all these people are making it. Why not me? And I just had this moment where I'm just like all these guys, and I'm like, I was just kind of being silly. I'm like, all these schmucks are making it. Like, there really weren't any, and I don't mean this in a negative way, more of like a factual way, where it's like there was no one kind of like really like wow or like amazing or anything like that or special in that way. Like these are kind of regular people, man, like me. I'm like, they're making it. How come I'm not? And then like right then and there, I had a shift. I'm like, okay, I keep blaming everybody but me, but they're making it work somehow. And I just had this really cool moment where I'm just like, it's like switched on. And I'm just like, I'm gonna make this work. And here's like the big line that did it for me. And I should actually turn into a framework, an artwork, and frame it on my office here somewhere. But actually, I'm going to do that.
Nice.
And the statement is this: the one thing I said that changed my whole life. I said, I'm going to make this work or die trying.
Yeah.
No plan B. No maybe. No let's see. Let's find out. I don't know.
Burn the ships.
Yeah, it was just a total commitment to success.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's similar to, it's funny. I think Brian Page was on maybe your show or interviewing with somebody, but I know he was working with you at some point.
And he was my first ever client.
Really?
Yeah. He paid me $5,000, and when I deposited that check in my bank account, my bank balance was $5,250.
Nice. Yeah, Brian's amazing. So I knew Brian back, 2006 ish. And he was in my group of friends that we were all hanging out, and he was doing real estate deals at the time. He was flipping beachfront property, which is where I'm at right now on the North Carolina coast. And we were actually in one of his beachfront condos, like having a party.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, and I was really attracted to his like personality. And he's telling me,
Yeah.
I'm a
He's the
candidate
best.
on The Bachelor, and I'm flipping properties, and his life is good, and everything's awesome. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, this guy, he's rocking it, man. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And
He's rocking even more now. Yeah.
totally clean cut too. I mean, it was funny. Like one of the guys
Yep.
downstairs came up, and he was like, "You SOBs better stop." And he's like trying to cuss us out, and then he looks around, and this is like a neighbor that just walked into the condo, like while we're all in there.
Yeah.
And he's like
Yeah.
looking at us, and we all have waters in our hands, and we're just looking at him.
Yeah.
and,
It's so funny.
and he's like, well, just be quiet. And then he left, and we're like, who is this guy? But anyway,
That's so funny.
so Brian was just a really good host, right? Well, then 2008-9 hit, right? He lost everything. I never saw him again. Like he literally disappeared. And the one thing that he said later when I was listening to his like podcast and stuff was exactly what you said. He was like, there was this moment where I said, I am going to lock myself in my mother or grandmother's basement until I figure this out.
Right.
And I think one of his things he said, which really I still remember it to this day, and this was probably back in like whenever he had his Airbnb business come out. I forget what year that was, but he was like,
It's like 2017 or something.
2017, yeah. He was like,
Yeah.
I am not going to watch any movies or TV until I figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I actually like that a lot. I know some people have done cool things like that, like I'm not going to shave or different things. I've never done anything like that. I like that. I think I'm going to do that.
I mean, that's hardcore, man. That's like,
Yeah.
he was in a lot of debt. I mean, millions of debt. The banks called all their loans on him, and
Yeah.
it was a tough situation, but like he somehow figured it out and got out. And it's amazing how his mindset allowed him to rise. Like you're saying, like he actually just burned the ships and like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to lock myself in this room until I do it. And he was able to find you and connect and resonate and just get that going. So when I saw him on your profile there, I was like, man, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do that.
I mean, I think the other thing that I'd like to hear from you on is when you make big offers or you make big commitments publicly, like as like a more public figure where you're online all the time, you're doing things like this, like how does that change how you struggle through those kind of things?
It doesn't really do anything for me personally, because I think I have like maybe a slightly deeper understanding of human psychology. I just know that public memory is super short. So I feel like even right now, if I say, all right, guys, guess what? I'm not going to shave until I land $1 million client, whatever. I don't know. I honestly, I think the public's just going to forget about it in like 10 seconds. You know what I mean? And that's not like an excuse to like not keep your word or anything like that. And I just mean like, for me, there is this concept that I do believe of like putting things out there. Look, it's actually very interesting. From a religious point of view, it's not really recommended to share your plans too much. And there's a lot of wisdom behind that, because I'll give you an example. Like I was writing a kid's book, or I finished writing a kid's book. We're now working on illustrating it actually. And I started telling people, even my family, and people like laughing at me and stuff like, dude, like, what are you doing? You're not an author. And I even like drew some illustration. I'm like, hey, check out my, like, that's like that's dumb. And the truth is, like, you gotta understand something. Most people, or not most people, but there's a lot of haters out there. And most people, put it this way, let's actually even reverse it a little bit. Most people not doing much with their lives. And then when they see other people trying to do something, they feel uncomfortable. Like, wait a minute, what's he doing? Why am I not doing anything? Are they better than us? And then sometimes for some people with not the best mindset, their automatic reflex is to make fun of it, joke about it, talk it down, say it's not stupid, it's not going to work. In fact, they're just talking to themselves out loud, because they're like, wait a minute, he's writing a book. Wait a minute, how come I'm not writing a book? Because it's a dumb idea. Okay, well, that's a dumb idea. Don't write a book. So it is very important. It is, in fact, I am guilty of breaking this kind of advice I'm giving you, but it is very important, I think, to be very careful who you talk to. about your plans and your ideas. For example's sake, if you're trying to lose weight, there's no need to talk to a fat person about your plan because they're not going to be of much use. You know what I mean? And I can talk very freely about that because I've lost 50 pounds myself. So, and that's what people are doing. You know, they're talking to a bunch of, unsuccessful people about but people who have achieved a certain level of success, they're always encouraging each other and talking each other up and supporting each other. And you want to be in those circles. You don't want to be in the opposite. So I think there's a lot of wisdom to that, to being very careful who you share your plans with.
Yeah. And I think too, like in today's just fast-paced culture where everything's a clip and just a moment, and it's hard to go deep on anything. People are just apathetic and not paying attention anyway. So it's just scroll, headline read, very surface.
Yeah.
And that's how you can feel sometimes, because you have your heart and you're like, this is the most important thing I'm going to share with you. And then you're like, huh, and it just goes through the feed. Nobody cares. And you're like, oh. And then it's your family that is like the quote unquote haters that really don't care. And they're trying to steer you back to like, no, get back to where you were, who you were, the comfortable you.
Well, I mean, I very much remember exact scenes. I was at the mall in California and I was, quote unquote, dating my current wife. And I remember I was with some friends who were divorced. Well, I was with one particular friend who was divorced and not married, and didn't really look like he was going to get married because he was an alcoholic. And I was like, we were going to the mall. I'm like, hey man, I'm going to go hang out with, Nika. I'm trying to get to a point where it's getting more serious, want to get married and stuff like that. I distinctly remember and I'm just giving you a snapshot, but it represents kind of a lot of what goes on and what a lot of people go through. But I'll never forget his face where he's like, and he was upset. He was actually upset. He's like, who do you think you are? Like, oh yeah, all right, dude, whatever, dude. Like that. I was like, and I remember I was like kind of shocked because I was like one of the first times I've really seen it in that light. I was like, because this was many years ago, man. This is like 7-8 years ago, whatever. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, okay, I see how it is. And then you start noticing that from other people. Like, a lot of people don't want to see you succeed. My suggestion is to surround yourself with the people who do. There's a lot of nice people too who want to keep you under them. They don't want to see you do better than them.
Yeah. Yeah. You almost have to change your circle. I mean, even my friends, like I lived in Nashville for 10 plus years before I moved to the coast. And I mean, almost all of my friends that became famous, musicians or whatever, their circle that they hung out with got smaller and more intentional, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. I mean, like in my life, I think one of the most underrated things that are not talked about enough is environment, is the word environment. Because if I took a look at my life, I used to be 50 pounds heavier. Well, where was my environment? My environment was the parking lots of McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King. Burger King was my least favorite, by the way. It's funny. I was like, I had my meal set up. McDonald's was a Big Mac, quarter pounder with cheese. And actually, for a little while it was quarter pounder with cheese, but extra cheese, no pickles. And then it got changed to a Big Mac. What's funny about McDonald's is that when you have their fries and you drink their Coke, that combination sometimes feels like something toxic's in your mouth. It's really weird. Anyway, that was my environment. When I changed my environment to organic grocery stores, such as Trader Joe's, I lost 50 pounds. When I had a lot of bad habits, I was surrounded by friends who had, my environment was friends with bad habits. When I changed that to people with good habits, when I changed that environment, I started having good habits. Yeah. When I, would hang out just loitering, my environment was just, I don't know, let's just say movie theaters, late night movie theaters and late night diners, just fooling around, having fun, goofing around. When that was my environment, I was broke. When I changed my environment to like masterminds and like libraries and stuff like that, I became, a top 1% earner. So no matter what aspect of your life is not going well, mental, physical, spiritual, financial, whatever aspect of your life is just not doing well, my number one advice is just change environments.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I forget who I was listening to recently, but they were talking about how there's really basically only three buckets for audiences nowadays that you're actually marketing to. And it's like the completely overwhelmed person, the activist, or the pacifist, right?
Yeah.
And I think the third one was pacifist or something like along those lines, where it's just like, I just want to get along, I just want to go along, and I just don't want any, I just want peace, right?
Yeah.
But then you have the activist who was out there like, no, this is the, politics and whatever, right? And then you have the person that's just like, I am completely and utterly overwhelmed with everything in life, and I just want to go like curl up in a ball and go to sleep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
and so
That's fun.
and so like all their copy and all their marketing is like written for those like three personas or whatever.
That's very organized. That's very organized.
One of the things that I've faced this last 6 months has just been the overwhelm of content creation and like the stream of, all the different places we can create as content creators today, having it show up in all the different formats, all the different, long form, short form, all the different types of clips. And I've just been overwhelmed with like the process of how you get your message out there today being so fractured and so, everywhere, that you feel like you're just spending a lot of time trying to get to fewer and fewer people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I'm not currently doing this. I did do this. I'm going back into this. But sometimes you have to get out of things to realize the power of it. I think it's much easier. Look, clarity eliminates anxiety. And I think it's much easier and simpler not to create content, but to actually just document.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by that? Like, first of all, if you have the money to do this, that's fine. That's great. If you don't have the money to do this, just get a couple of clients. Like I told you, like my first client was Brian Page. Paid me $5,000. That's all the money I had. I had like my bank balance was $5,250 or whatever it was when I deposited his check. The first thing I did was hire a VA, and I've had one ever since. And that was years ago. So if you have the money, just go ahead and do this. If you don't have the money, just go get some clients. Hire a guy. And this doesn't have to be a big Hollywood professional. You don't even want that. You really just want like a student whose like hobby is videography, really. And just a simple DSLR, just a simple camera, and he has his little stick, and you have the mic thing, and that's really all you need. And just documenting you. If you're any good at what you're doing, right, which you are, otherwise you wouldn't sell it, and God's given everyone a gift, just film your days. Like, what are you doing that day? Like, if I had a guy right now, he'd be filming me doing this, and he'd be taking out nuggets of that and putting it on Instagram, like a couple like key little elements. He would have filmed like the prep before this, or maybe like our private conversation after this. And like, here, let's take a look at my schedule, and I'll just show you. Like today, I had a team meeting today, so you would have recorded that. Did a Facebook Live, talked to a guy about some masterminds. We're doing a walkthrough of my event, which we're trying to do $1 million in a day. Have a meeting with the accountant. I have a non-for-profit meeting later. So it's just like, have him just film your day, just you doing stuff.
But to your point earlier, you have to change your environment first, or your day is sitting in McDonald's parking lot.
Well, you know what? You kind of film that. Wherever you're at, you start there. But then when you have someone there, it's actually super cool, because it's very, like right now, like if there was a videographer sitting here, like I can't just put my feet up and throw the TV on and watch Downton Abbey. Maybe I could, but I could only do it for like 10, 15 minutes or something. Other than that, I'm just going to feel silly.
Right.
Like this guy's watching me and I'm just sitting here watching TV.
Accountability.
So it'll actually motivate you to do more. Most people have a problem procrastinating. It'll help you stop procrastinating. Now, on the flip side of this, it depends where you are in life. If you're right now thinking, if you're listening to me and you're like, well, I don't really do much in a day, so like I don't know what this guy's going to film. Well, that's the problem. And that's why you need this guy, so you can start doing stuff. And if you don't have a plan, well, then that means you don't have a mentor. And then if you don't have a mentor, good luck. And mentorship comes in different forms. Like when I first got started, my mentorship was just watching YouTube videos, for example's sake. My first real mentor, I made a real breakthrough. You have to pay for it. I didn't have the money for it. And I sold my car to do it, but it was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. You see a lot of 9 to 5 people have a cap. It's crazy, man. I saw somebody the other day, and it was a family friend, and we were talking to them, and they got like a job offer, and they got to drive into the city every day in traffic hour, drive back like 8 o'clock in the morning. They got to get there, which means they have to leave at 7 something. They got to come home at like, they end at 6, which means they're gonna be home at like 6:30 something. All day, every day. They're gonna have to sacrifice time with their family. They're not gonna be there as much for their kids or their significant other. And what they were getting paid, which was like 75K, it's like, dude, I do more than that in a month, and like no schedule. I mean, complete flexibility like that. Like I don't have to go answer to a boss. I don't have to go like driving traffic. And so in other words, I'm not saying I'm cool or anything like that. And I'm not hating on 9 to 5. I'm just saying that there's differences. And in 9 to 5, you have a cap. So if you've decided to be an entrepreneur, or if you are an entrepreneur, which I think is more likely the case, you need to understand that there's no real cap in entrepreneurship. So your job is really to turn yourself, your talent into your cash cow, and then take that cash. And this is one of the first things I learned when I got into this industry is take this easy online money and put it into passive income, so that not so you can retire, because I think most entrepreneurs are not interested in retiring, actually.
True.
So that you don't have to work, because when you don't have to work, you get a new level of freedom.
That's actually a big unlock for a lot of people, right? Is like go from looking outside yourself to find value or find what you need or want to just saying like, I need to fix me first and look inside first. And then that generates the value, right? And it kind of creates your environment changes, your friends change, everything changes from that moment. And it's not all at once. There was this one guy that was following Gary Vee really closely, and he had the same document versus create, philosophy. And so he was a, young businessman, entrepreneur. He hired a guy to just follow him around like Gary Vee all day. And he said, I think it was like 3 months or however long, but he's like, literally, it was the most boring footage that no one even wanted to edit. So he threw it all away and never even put it out.
That is so funny. Yeah. When I first gave this advice, at the time my CEO was like, dude, you realize most people are not doing much. Like this is kind of going to go way over their head. And then I was like, well, dude, like if you're not doing much, well, then that's the problem. You know what I mean? So I think it's a good gut check. If you don't know what to do, it's really rather simple in the sense that, to build a 7-figure business, there's only like 7 key elements, right? And write this down. Just here, take a piece of paper and write this down. You want to build a 7-figure business? Here's what you need. And by the way, we should be thinking bigger than a 7-figure business. The 7-figure business is not like, I generate 7 figures in revenue. There are some months where like it's penny to penny, like after expenses, like there's really nothing left over. So, don't think that, 7-figure business it's really not a big deal. Like $1 million business is really, in conventional business terms, it's really nothing.
Yeah.
It's really like not a big deal. Like you gotta understand there's like a good amount of expenses too. Anyway, you got to be thinking bigger than 7-figure business. And then there's some people like, dude, I don't even have 10,000. Like, what do you, anyway, the 7 things you need for a 7-figure business is mindset. So you just write these things down. So let's just write them down. Ready? Mindset. If you want to be a 7-figure earner, that puts you in the top 1%, in the bottom of the top 1%. But you have to understand there's 99% of other people who are not. And so that means you have to think different than them. Your behaviors have to be different than them. Your actions have to be different than them. Everybody you see, pretty much, you have to be different than them, right? So you got to rewire your mind a little bit. Number 2, you need a really juicy offer. We talked about that. We talked about, hey, you want to lose weight, or hey, you want to lose some weight so you can play with your kids and finally be a good dad. So you need a juicy offer. The vast majority of offers are not very interesting, not enticing. They're kind of lame. Point number 3, you need to put that offer in a very good funnel that has ethical principles of persuasion baked into it. Most people have a funnel, but they lack all persuasion in there, so it doesn't convert. Then you need to send traffic to that, paid and organic. But most people have no idea how to do this, so they're not getting any traffic. Then once you get the traffic, you need to know how to close the sales. Okay? Most people don't know how to close sales. Then you need to create automations to start automating things. And then you need to build a lean team for pennies on the dollar to manage those systems and kind of run your business. A true entrepreneur, and we're all guilty of not being one at some point or other, but a true entrepreneur doesn't work in their business, they work on their business. and they're not so much in the depths of it unless they want to be.
That's the real, by the way, that's the real mindset shift. For me, when I started really digging into the E-Myth and really understanding what a true entrepreneur is, I had to rewire everything about being an employee, right? Entrepreneurship is really about building systems that maximize the productivity of people. You literally have to have a systems mindset about everything or it just doesn't work, because you end up, especially type A personalities where I'm just like, oh, I got to do everything and I got to just work harder and hustle more and then it'll happen. It's like, no, that you have to change fundamentally the system.
I think you have to enjoy the process. I think that's really important, because the goal that you're trying to achieve, when you get there, it might not be what you thought. Let's just say, for example, like, I want to make 7 figures out of this business, right? And then you cross that 7-figure mark. Well, it's hella cool for a second, but then very quickly it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
So it's not like, a lot of people don't understand that. Like that's the end of the race. No, that's really not. The end of the race is when you're dead, really.
Yeah.
Dude, I used to live in an electrical closet, man. My coffee table used to be the cardboard box that my TV was in, with a 99-cent kind of party, what do they call it? Sheet over it. I'm all about hard work. I enjoy working. I don't think you need to work all the time. I have a good work-life balance. I see my kids every day. I'm home relatively early every day, and sometimes I don't even come to the office, and I don't miss out on any of their stuff. There's this one school of thought: sacrifice, and then when you're older, you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
I do not agree with it at all. I think you can enjoy yourself and build at the same time. What I will suggest is to take advantage of your youth. If you're single, if you have no kids, and you're just partying a lot, and you don't really have any responsibilities, and you're living with your parents, you don't really have a lot of bills, take advantage of that. There's different phases of people's lives. I would spend that time really educating yourself on marketing, on systems, on team building, really educating yourself, and take big risks. Mind you, I'm married with kids and I have a lot of bills and mortgages and private schools and this and that, and I still take big risks.
I was gonna say, like, when you're in your 20s, though, the thought of what you're saying doesn't even cross their mind, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not something. But there are a few, though, and I will say this: some of the 20-something-year-olds that I mentor and coach, like, they are so far light years ahead of anything that we could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Because of all the online training and stuff.
Yeah.
It blows me away.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
I didn't really get started in this world until I was like 30-ish. And so I see a lot of like 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, and they're in the game and they got caught. I'm like, dude, you are so ahead.
Yeah.
And I love to see that, and I just encourage people to take advantage of that too, and to start early. You know what I mean? I wasted like all my entire 20s. It was wasted and just partying. And you need a mentor, man. I never had a mentor in my 20s. I never had a mentor.
Yeah.
You need one. You absolutely need one. Like back in the day, before all this stuff, like, how do you get a mentor? It's recorded in through history that if people wanted to really educate themselves and become a master of something, they would have to abandon their families and travel across the world. Like, okay, I heard in Africa there's some, scholarly folk that are masters in whatever persuasion or whatever. Like, okay, I got to go spend 3 months, getting there, hopefully survive. And by the way, a lot of people died in their, what do they call it? Pilgrimage or whatever you want to call it. In their journey. So we're very blessed, we're very, very blessed. And I really recommend we take a moment to reflect on that and really kind of promise ourselves to take advantage of it.
That's a huge point. I love that point. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Akbar. This was really fun. Had a good time talking. And I know that it brought a lot of value to our listeners. So thank you, Akbar. We really appreciate you today.
Yeah, man. Likewise. And, I'll conclude with my number one secret. Just give, just keep giving. I don't care. I don't care if it's a minute of your time, a smile, 5 cents. I don't care. Don't wait. Don't say, I'll when I make it big, then I'll give. The only way to make it big is to give. So just go do that and you can't go wrong. But thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Akbar. Take care.
Ariel, peace. you.